So, welcome to another edition of the Lady CEO Realtor Edition. Okay. I know I say this every time, but right now I'm super excited. I don't know why I didn't start this podcast a year ago because it has been absolutely amazing. And today, I get to introduce all of you. Okay. I haven't had any coffee for hours, I promise. But today, I get to introduce you to my friend, Kathy Helbig-Strick, who owns Experience Realty Partners. And like most of these conversations, it's just like two girlfriends having a coffee. And I'm super excited for you to listen in on this one. So, Kathy, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I love girl talk, especially girl talk that's real estate talk.
You have been in the real estate industry. Okay, I think real estate time is different than any other time in the world.
Yes, it's like dog years.
You literally, I think 2 lifetimes, 24 years, right? 2 lifetimes. I want to hear your story. I want to hear the Kathy story. Tell me the Kathy story.
I've been around the block, right? Yes. I'm an old timer. You know, no. I did start at 12 years old, just saying.
Yeah, of course you did. Clearly. No, you were a child. I don't know how you got a license.
Exactly. Prodigy, you know. No, I got into this business, and, you know, my story is kind of what has created my path. You just looking back at some of the challenges and wins and things that I had. But, you know, I originally was attracted to real estate. Going back even before that, I was not a college graduate. My parents were, you know, maybe barely middle class. There was 2 generations in my family. My brother was 16 years older. My sister was 14 years older. And then there was me and my brother that was 4 years older. So they were kind of probably done with raising kids by the time I came along. And my older siblings never went to college. My brother that was closest to me, he did. And he was like one of those brain children. And it was never brought up to me. And so I was one of those girls that, you know, my mom was a stay-at-home mom. That was the role model that I had. And so I was in a high school relationship at 15 years old, you know, all the way through high school, got engaged right out of high school. I was going to get married and have babies, you know, that was the thing. So there really wasn't a plan for me to have a career. Although, interesting enough, all the way through school, I was like one of these overachievers, but not necessarily scholastically. I still make good grades, but I was like, if I'm on the cheerleading squad, I wanted to be the captain of the cheerleading squad. If I was, you know, I started the yearbook at our small little school. I was the editor of the yearbook, like those type of things.
You were born an entrepreneur.
Yes. So that was in my blood. But yet I really didn't have anybody modeling that for me. So right out of school, engaged to this guy, going to get married. Thank God that didn't happen. But he's the one that he talked me into, because what am I going to do? I worked at a hair salon as a receptionist at the time. He's like, you should go sell cars. And I was like, huh? He's like, you make great money at cars. He was a car fanatic. So I was living out his dream. So I'm 19 years old. I walk into a car dealership with my little dress on. I looked 14 because my whole family are round-faced people.
Nice.
And so they basically laughed at me and thought it was kind of a joke. And one dealership gave me a chance, but I think it was almost like okay, you can try it, little girl, but you're going to fall flat on your face. Well, I didn't fall flat on my face. I did pretty darn well. I usually ranked in the top 2 or 3 highest sellers every month. I didn't know a darn thing about cars or engines or torque or any of that stuff. I knew the stereo sounded good. It looked pretty, that type of thing. But way back then, I knew that people wanted something different, a different experience, which this word experience keeps coming in throughout my life. Okay, a different experience than what they're used to having at a car dealership. And I think that's why people gave me a shot and were attracted to me, even though I didn't necessarily have all the answers right away when they would ask me something about the torque or the horsepower or whatever. But I treated them kindly. I was not high pressure. Everybody dreaded going in to buy a car, right? They didn't dread it with me. So that's what gave me success in there. So I learned some sales skills. I learned people skills at that point in time. So I sold cars for 3.5 years. Then I did get married. I got pregnant right away. As soon as we got married, I got pregnant, different guy. And I went into outside. So I stayed home as a stay-home mom. No, I take that. After car sales, I went into outside sales for another couple of years until I went to car dealerships, still in the car realm.
Okay, right.
Sold aftermarket stuff. So I walked those lots until I was pregnant, ready to pop, literally like 2 weeks before I had the baby. And then I stayed home for 2 years. And I thought I was going to be this amazing stay-home mom. You know, that's all my mom ever did. That's all I planned on doing, was having kids. And, you know, I loved it. But after a couple of years of doing it, I was just like, I need something else in my life to challenge me. So this broker comes along, he's doing a radio commercial, he's doing these seminars way back then about, you know, how to save commissions when you sell your house and building new construction. And we were just getting ready to do that. So I went to this event, got pulled in. Long story short, he's like, you need to get in real estate. I'll send you to get your test. You need to come work for me. So that's how I got into real estate. He told me, though, that I could work 15 hours a week and make a ton of money in real estate. So that was my pull. So I was like, okay, I get to be the mom, and I can put in 15 hours a week and then make this extra spending money, so I don't feel beholden to my husband when I go to a store and like, what'd you spend on so-and-so? I'm like, that didn't fly well with me. It was really hard for me to answer those questions. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to go make all this money and do very little work in real estate. Obviously that was a lie. You know, that was what Maury Povich say, this is not the truth, or whatever his thing is. It wasn't. So I worked for the guy for less than a month, and I ended up switching to a big major local player in St. Louis back in the day. Now, keep in mind, this was all pre-internet and real estate. There was no online shopping. We had Maris on a floppy disk on a DOS system. So I got into real estate then, and it took off like crazy. So next thing I know, it was in my blood, and I just started building from there. I ended up partnering with people because I had too much business. In just a year, I had more business than I could handle.
Really?
So that was kind of my entry into real estate, but that's always stuck with me because I felt like I was lied to in the very beginning, and I was brought into the business under false pretenses.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think people still are to this day.
Oh, I think so too. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, the traditional broker model is broke, in my opinion. And it's about how many bodies can we get in and just kind of throw them out there and see what happens. So I've always been super conscious of not doing that. When I talk to people about getting into real estate, I call myself the anti-recruiter, because I would paint the gray skies instead of the blue skies. And people would leave like, holy cow, I really want to get into real estate. I'm like, that's the scoop, you know?
Yeah.
So that was kind of my entry, and I always built off of, you know, being very open and transparent about what real estate is. And another thing, I think people, maybe brokers aren't necessarily lying to them, but they also are attracted to the business for the wrong reasons, which is why a lot of people aren't successful in it. So coming into it because you want it to be flexible and you want to not work as much, and you know, the same things that I thought sounded cool to bring me into real estate, that doesn't produce a very successful real estate career. So there's a lot of smoke and mirrors that I found out over the first few years, that I started to become, you know, really, really diligent about blowing that up out of the water, because it just bothered me that people weren't honest and transparent in this business.
Well, even today people see HGTV and think, oh, you show these people 4 or 5 houses and then they just buy one and everything happens. It's like, go look at houses, skip to the happy ending. Yeah. And there's so much that happens. That happens.
When $1 Million Listing came out, I couldn't even watch it. It would make me so mad. I was watching like, this is not how it works.
Okay, I don't want to say it's fake, but it's taken way out of context. All out of context.
Yeah. And definitely like narrowed down, like, you don't show him the house. Hey, I'm going to call my buddy. I'm going to make him an offer while I'm popping champagne. He's calling me right back, and we got it. Hey, high five. No, it doesn't know how it works.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that was annoying to me. So that's how I got into the business. That was 24 years ago. Then I mentioned that was pre-internet days. So it was a very traditional market. You know, it was kind of a good old boys club here in St. Louis. And I was the first agent, at least they told me this, unless it was a sales tactic, but I believed him. I was the first agent to actually buy a marketing space on realtor.com in our area. So when realtor.com came to St. Louis, my brokerage said, ignore them. Don't buy any websites. It's a waste of your money. The consumer is not going to shop for real estate online. They need the real estate agents. Don't fall into this. Keep doing print advertising. Put it in the newspaper. You know, that's the way you need to go. And it didn't feel right to me. I knew it was a new day. So I left.
You could tell something was evolving.
Totally. I left the brokerage. I went to a different brokerage and I went all in with internet marketing. And then that doubled and tripled my business just immediately because so many people in St. Louis were still skeptical and just old dog new tricks. They weren't going to adopt it. So that was the next climb that I had. And I had a lot of success in learning how to build a brand because I really never thought about it, you know, before. I just liked houses and I liked people and I sold houses, but no one ever really taught me how to build a business, a real estate business, or how to brand yourself, because that's anti the brokerage. They didn't want you to brand yourself. They wanted you to be dependent on the brand.
Yes.
So that was like, we don't talk about that, you know, just slap the name of our company on and everyone will come.
Well, and even legalities too. When realtors advertise, the brokerage name has to be such and such size next to the realtor's name, and it has to have this phone number and that phone number. So yeah, it's definitely geared towards, you're an independent, but independent contractor, but are you really?
Right. And, you know, the thing that I didn't realize right away until after I left, and like, I swear it was like one day the light bulb just went on, is, you know, the old brokerage model pushed that broker number. Like when I was first starting out, you couldn't even have your own extension unless you were a certain number producer. And if you were one of those higher producers, then you earned the right to put your phone number and extension Edie on the sign too, but it was the broker number that was, and the reason why, and it's still this way with a lot of the big brokerages, is their model is to make the front desk phone ring, because they're putting agents in phone duty opportunities, so they don't have to pay for reception work. It's a trade-off. You get opportunity time for 3 hours while you sit at this desk. We don't pay a receptionist, and any calls that come in off of our property is up for grabs for you. So
they are giving someone else your leads.
100%. So how do you build a business? How do you measure your ROI?
So how long have you been in when that hit you? Like, what point were you in your career where you're like, wait a minute?
Well, it wasn't until, so I bought the first featured home ad with realtor.com at the old company that I was at. You know, started running those for a few weeks. And I think that was when I was in the process of interviewing and making a move. So I moved, I specifically remember this. I moved the first week in January. In St. Louis, it's cold in January. That is not a time that people are looking for houses, especially pre-internet. Remember, this is before people were bored in their house and searching. They would have to call realtors and go out and go to open houses. So January's were, you know, back then. And I literally switched brokerages and my phone and emails ringing off the hook. And I'm thinking, what is going on? Like, this is weird that I've switched. It's not like these people, people are not sitting around going, oh, that girl finally left and went to RE/MAX. You're going to call her now because she's at the brand. Like, that wasn't it. So I was like trying to figure it out. Like, why are my phones so crazy all of a sudden? And then I went,
what you're trying to figure out, what did you do differently?
Yes. And honestly, I was scared. I was scared to leave that brokerage because that was the biggest brokerage in town. They had the most market share. And I was going to RE/MAX, and RE/MAX in our day back then was known as kind of the discount broker. So I was selling myself short already. I'm going to have to lower my listing commissions. I'm going to have to make people deals. Like, I was panicking, but I was willing to do it. And then my phones are ringing. I was like, what's going on? Like, people, they like me better because I'm at RE/MAX. I mean, come on, that doesn't make sense. And then it finally went, ding. Oh, maybe because I'm getting my calls this time. Maybe I'm actually getting routed the stuff that was coming to me. And now they're not having to call the front desk. They can send an email. They can click on the link and get information about this house.
And
So
come
it didn't take
directly
long, but it
to
was
you.
like, it didn't, I was just like, So that's when I went, this
Wow.
internet thing is working. Out the door with the print materials. We're going to go all in with internet marketing. And
Wow.
that's when I really took off. So I started, I tried to, nobody was doing teams back in St. Louis at that time either. So that was, very, very early for me to even go into that avenue. But I started as partnering with 2 people. That didn't work because that was 3 women cook in a kitchen, and that's not a good thing. So after 3.5 years of that, I was like, you guys go your way. I'm going to go my way. I'm just going to build a team where I'm going to be the captain of the ship. So I did that and probably did everything wrong. I spent way too much money, but I learned a lot. But over the next couple of years, we built our team to be the highest selling group in the whole Missouri region, all on internet marketing and branding. That's when I was branding myself.
Okay.
Because I had already, unlike most people in the area, most people would go to a brokerage and they'd stay. There wasn't a whole lot of hopping around back then. So I had already been, this is my 3rd brokerage. So now I'm kind of like, no big deal, switch, it's not going to kill you. Nobody cares. But most people are so convinced, I can't leave because everybody's calling me because I'm with so-and-so. No, they're not, they're calling you. And I figured that out early on, luckily. And so I poured into, branding and marketing myself. And I was always like, I minimized the company because I was like, I might not be here in a few years. So it's going to be me. And
It's
that's
the
what I kept
Kathy
doing.
show. That's exactly right.
Exactly. So that was kind of the climb. I stayed at RE/MAX for 7 years and, reached the pinnacle of what I could reach. I was top dog. I worked out of my basement. I brought my team into my basement. I had like four or 5 people max on my team at the time. And I never counted numbers. I never ranked myself. I never cared. I was never trying to be number one. I just loved it. I loved it. And I loved the relationships I was creating with people and helping people. And I remember it was the big awards banquet. And I was in like the top 5 the years before. I was always in the top 5-ish. And I was like, I have no idea, where we're at was like a formal gown thing. You go to this, the gala at the hotel ballroom, and they call up the top, the top 10 people. You're all brought up to stage at once, and then one by one, number 10, number 9.
Or what?
No, I'm standing there like, well, probably number 7. I'm like, well, nope. No, they just called number 7, probably number 6. And I'm just standing there totally oblivious that I had wiped everybody out in sales because I hadn't been measuring myself. So they got down to like top 3, and I was like, okay, I have to be number 2. And I was like, no way. It's like the beauty pageant winner. You're like, So I was, top dog at the time, and I was tired because I was doing all of this myself, So at that point is when another opportunity came. We had Keller Williams was not a brand known in St. Louis yet, and Keller Williams was moving in. So they contacted me and basically said, hey, listen, there's more to selling houses. And that was like, that's what I needed to hear, because I'd had my head down for all these years and it was tiring. Like I didn't have much of a life. Everything was real estate. Looking back, I sacrificed a lot, time with my children, husband, family, friends. I really noticed one day, I was like, I'm a really nice person and I do anything for anybody, but I feel like it's hard for me to keep deep friendships. And then it was like, because you don't have time to give people, and friendships require time. And so that was eye-opening for me, because it was like, wow, you're right. Because every time I would be somewhere, I was negotiating a contract, or I was on the phone, or I was interrupted. So I was there, but I wasn't present.
Right.
And it was the same thing with, my kids. I had my 4-year-old one time, mommy. And I was like, why'd you like it off the phone? And she goes, but you're always on the phone.
Oh.
And I went, ooh, you're right, I am. So that's when I kept trying to hone the team even better, bigger, stronger, because I needed some balance somewhere. And then that's where, looking back, people strive, they look up to me here in St. Louis. I'm one of the top producers, and everybody wants to, oh, I'd love to be like you. And I'm thinking, no, you don't. Because there's a lot of cost to being me.
This ain't HGTV, friends.
That's right.
This is real life
So,
business owner.
yeah.
Yep.
And that's kind of how I started building my next team model and business model, was based on, I want to help the agents be successful, but I don't want them to give away their life for real estate. Nobody's going to look back and be proud of that. So that's, been very important to me, is to build a team, and even the brokerage that I end up doing later, to build a model that gives people the ability to step out for a minute and go do life and step back in without missing a beat. So I don't want to keep talking unless if you want to jump in, just tell me to hush, because I'm a talker. But I started at Keller Williams. I said, okay, this sounds good. I don't want to just keep selling. I want to spread my wings. And so there was coaching opportunities. There was market, owners of market centers, that type of thing. So I was a co-owner of the market center here. And we launched and we built the market center pretty quickly, but it was a very dysfunctional partnership, and there wasn't a whole lot of support from the company, because each individual market center, you have your own partnership agreements, and they're not really part of that.
Okay.
So it was a lot of, it's your own partnership agreement, you guys figure it out, that type of thing. But when you are a partner with somebody that's not following the rules, what do you do? So there was a lot of
you signed an agreement. You're in it with other people.
But they weren't even following the agreement, but there's nothing you can do to enforce it, because you couldn't go to anybody to help enforce it. So you'd have to go to court. So it was very broken. It was just a bad partnership to start out with.
Okay.
So I stayed in it. We got some resolution, actually had the partner got removed, and, new blood came in, but it was just bad juju from the very beginning. So I was there for 9 years, but it was very tumultuous. And the people that we had locally that were involved were part of some of the corruption that I saw and even dealt with as a woman. It was very sad. It was the first time I ever felt like I had a glass ceiling over me, was during those days.
Really?
Yeah. Because
as an owner.
As an owner, yeah. And I'm sad to say there's great people at Keller Williams, but there was some not great people at the time when I was there. And again, there was nobody to turn to. So I felt like I was on an island, and, they were growing. We were growing very quickly in the St. Louis area, and a lot of people had good experiences, and I just wasn't. And so it started, it kind of made it look like, well, what's wrong with you? Like, must be you, something going on. And then I started questioning myself, like, is it something I'm doing? Like, I don't get it, but I kept saying, like, trying to shed light on some things, and nobody would hear me. Nobody would pay attention. And it took years, and finally some of those people were exposed and removed from the company, because it was the same pattern that was going on all over the place. It wasn't just me, but I felt like it was just me here. And it almost broke me. I got to the point where, I was a small team, and I was doing, back in the day, I was being the partner of that organization, helping to grow that market center. We grew it to 240 agents in 5 years.
Nice.
36. And I was still running a team of doing 40 something million. It was a lot going on, but I was so beat up, and then feeling like I wasn't supported. And then I felt like I was put on an island, because I wasn't drinking the Kool-Aid anymore. I always liken it to, the Wizard of Oz, when you saw who Oz was.
You peeked behind the curtain.
Yeah. And I didn't like it. Not at that time. Like, what I had to deal with, it wasn't pretty. And so it was very disillusioning to me, and it demotivated me in this business. And I pretty much checked out. I let my team just roll for the most part, and tried to figure out, like, I'm just done. I don't even, like, days I didn't want to get out of bed and even go in. And so even just not functioning, we were still doing about 25 million. And I kept telling myself, gosh, if we're doing 25 million when I don't even want to get out of bed, we can really take this, farther. Because I really was an agent that was blessed. I did my marketing, did my branding, but most people came to me. I wasn't a big cold caller. I did do my farming. I did, do that kind of, I did the events like the Easter egg hunt and the
You were
garage sales.
consistent.
Yes.
There were things that you were committed to, that you were consistent with.
Right. But I wasn't like paying for leads. I wasn't, cold caller person. It's just, I didn't do all the things I could. I was terrible about getting back to my database. Terrible. And then I also started realizing the weaknesses of teams. As my first or second person left, what happens with teams, and this is what people need to be really, really mindful of, is that to scale, you do have to bring other people on, right?
Okay.
But the challenge with growing a team, the challenge with growing a team is that you are putting your relationships now in somebody else's pathway. So I'm cultivating a listing manager. I'm cultivating the top buyer agent. And so as my leads come in, hey, here's my good client from, I sold him a house. You get to run with them. Hey, here's a listing that came in. You're actually going to take the file. I go to the appointment, but now you work the file to closing. So that client is having more conversations with that assistant or that agent, right? Yes. Well, what happens when they leave? They leave with your piece of the business, that piece of the business that was put in their lap. And I started seeing it happen. And it's like, you kind of like, you get forward and then you go back 3 steps because you lost, 20% of your business walked out the door when that agent or that assistant left. So that's still a challenge to this day with growing a team. So something to think about is always trying to figure out how to keep yourself inserted as the brand and the systems, because you're not the relationship anymore. So if you can still build in maybe some videos of, hey, thank you for blah, blah, blah. Hey, I'm so excited your house went under contract. Interjecting yourself into the process that somebody else is being the mouthpiece for, that helps. And then also setting up strict parameters with agreements that a lead, they're yours.
Right.
They don't walk out the door. They belong to the company. And then having the events and the things like that, that actually you or your representative of you is inviting them to come in as a company-based thing versus each agent invites their own people in. Again, that's just my own 2 cents of trying to keep your business from walking away every couple of years when people leave. So be the forefront, be the one that's still putting yourself out there, and it's company, or your brand, not each individual agent on your team. You have to really be mindful of that.
So in the, I hear it all the time. Oh, don't name a team after yourself. Mm-hmm. Oh, don't name a team after yourself. Mm-hmm. But what I hear you saying is name a team after yourself, whatever, but you better make sure that people still know who you are.
Correct.
And that you are you are keeping some sort of communication. You're letting some people know who, you got to figure out a way to let people know who's really pulling the strings.
That's right.
Okay, that sounds like a big fat ego, but as business owners, mm-hmm. we understand that. And I feel like you're so much further along and you've been through so much mm-hmm. more than most realtors have or ever will, mm-hmm. that you're telling the future for us.
Right. And you know what you just said, it sounds like big fat ego. That's why I fought that, because I'm not an ego person. I always wanted to lift my team up. I wanted them to shine. And it rubbed me wrong to feel like I couldn't let them, do that part. But over the years, looking back, I see that was a big mistake, because we would have scaled much farther faster had I kept control of the people that were coming into my business and treating them as my client also, instead of just their client. So this went on. I worked with Keller Williams for 9 years, and it's something else that we were talking about pre-show is something that people don't even think about. I didn't think about it. I was so naive when I did everything that I've ever done. I've been naive. I'm just like, let's try it. It'll work.
Just give it a go. What's the worst thing that can happen? That's how all the good stories start. What is the worst
thing? I'm telling you. Exactly. And I had to tell myself, you can always go back, if something goes wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I jumped into this opportunity. It was a great opportunity. I mean, who wouldn't want to be part of a new brand that's coming to town and be an owner, of a brokerage when you've been a salesperson this whole time. But looking back, it's great when it works out great. But the issues that I ran into, you're used to acting as a real estate agent. As a real estate agent, you have choices every single day. You can walk into your brokerage and say, I'm leaving, here's my transfer. Some areas you just go online and make it. You don't even have to have the broker sign. In Missouri, you have to have the broker sign to release your license. So I didn't have, when you become an owner, so you got to think about this, because I know a lot of brokerages will use as carrots, a piece of ownership into something. So I had a 25% ownership piece. And as we built it into 240 agents, that was worth something. It was worth something pretty significant.
Right.
And if I wanted to leave, I can't just walk in with a transfer sheet, because now legally I'd be competing against my own company that I'm an owner of. So competing against my partnership group, against the franchise. So they throw you out. When you get thrown out, you lose your shares. So there wasn't that option of just, hey guys, I'm not happy, I want to move. It was hard conversations. I mean, screaming, not me, screaming conversations, like just really, really tough. And that went on off and on for 5 years through two separate partners that I had to deal with in this partnership agreement to be able to get out, because again, they weren't following what the protocol said for an exit. They were just kind of like, what are you gonna do about it?
What are you gonna do?
I'm not signing that. What are you gonna do about it? I'm not paying you that. Sorry, just that type of thing. And you're like up against a brick wall. So it's very frustrating. Like I said, that's when the glass ceiling stuff, it started years earlier, because I felt like I was brought in because I was a strong woman with a good reputation. And, there's a lot of women in real estate. So I was celebrated for that. But then when I was brought over, it was like, use that as much as you can. And then we're going to move her out of the way and bring a man in to take the place of what she forged. And so
that I know you as someone who moves with integrity, and you were moving with integrity and the others were not.
Correct. So that was demoralizing. And that was
shame on you for thinking that everyone else was going to move with integrity.
Yeah. 100%. And, am I a perfect person? Absolutely not. Could they look back and say, maybe I did some things wrong or made some wrong choices? Probably so.
Whatever.
But my intention was to go and I was excited about a brand, and I was excited about this new opportunity, and I was excited to grow. And then I felt very used and manipulated, and literally was screamed at by the regional owner constantly, like it was it was berating.
That sounds terrible.
And I'm not that. Growing up, I had a boss that yelled at me once. I spit in his coffee cup and cleaned it and put it on his desk, and I said, I'm out. Like, that's it. I can't, my insides go, like, that's not what I can work with. And so I'm dealing with that as our regional director. And then later he was the president, and then later he was the CEO. Like, it was bad. So I'm looking at, oh my gosh, this person and me are oil and water, because things happen that I knew, they knew, I knew. So I couldn't be a mouthpiece. I had to be silenced because I knew too much.
Right.
And so they silenced me. They pretty much silenced me. So I felt like I'm sitting here working in a company that's working against me, but I can't get out. So it was really, really crazy.
And they're still using you as, oh, look how successful Kathy is. Come to our company. They're still using you as an example, and still using your personality and your story to grow the company and grow the shares.
Yep. So good news is finally worked through all of that after 9 years. And I was at, a crossroads, because again, every day we were like, are we going to come to an agreement? Are we not going to come to? Are we Keller Williams, or are we whatever we're going to be?
Something else. Yeah.
Yeah. And I had talked to other brands. They were trying to recruit me. And it's like, even if I wanted to go, I couldn't just say, let's do it, because I was still trying to settle over here, unless I just gave up my money. If I wanted to walk away from the shares.
Yeah.
And I was at that point, I'm like, I'm not doing that. So I passed on some opportunities that came my way, but obviously I'm glad I did, because they weren't the right ones anyway. But then it got to the point where, it's starting to get ugly. I'm tired of being nice at this point, and I'm, bringing attorneys into it at this point. And finally, the 2 days before Christmas, I get the email from my partner saying, okay, we're settling. I settled on a number. He's like, okay, great. By the way, here's all of your agents' licenses attached. We want you out.
Go figure it out.
Yeah. And I was like, wait a minute, 2 days before Christmas.
Oh no.
All these listings, and you're cutting us off like overnight. And I can't go open a brokerage in a day. I couldn't start the brokerage process when I still own something else. Like, you have to be free and clear. And so I was like, great. So I'm calling broker friends, like, could you hold my license for just a couple of weeks? So I tried, and they're like, yeah, absolutely, whatever you need to do. And then finally I had a civil conversation and just said, look, come on, this isn't the right way to do this. And we talked about what his pain points were mine and what were mine. And we came to an agreement that he gave us a week, basically, or a little over, till after Christmas. Okay. So we opened a brokerage in 4 days before Christmas, 2 days before Christmas. The real estate commission was closed for the holiday. 2 days, man, we popped this thing open, and at that point in time, I still didn't know what I was doing, because I was talking to EXP at the time. The EXP was new on the scene. I want to say they had 4,000 agents at the time. I was talking to them. And I was drawn to the model, but I was also tired. Tired of the
because you just came out of this tumultuous years worth of this experience that just beat you down and sucked your energy every day for 5 years. And it was like, you're done. Get out of here. Wait, what?
Boom, get out. Don't let the door hit you. Bye-bye. Yeah. But yet my gut was like, I like this company. I don't know. I like this company. But my team was like, nope, don't do it. Don't make us do it. We just got out of, another company. Like, we just need to be away. So, and then my husband at the time, he was a boyfriend. We weren't engaged yet. And, he's crazy about me. He thinks I'm amazing. He was in the mortgage world. So I was like an icon anyway. And he's like, babe, you could do your own thing. You don't need anybody. So I had all of that.
I love him.
Yeah, he's pretty awesome. I had all of that. That was the cheering section, they're like, do it. We could do it. So I'm like, all right, I guess we're opening a brokerage. But it was never a burning desire. I like camaraderie. I like teamwork. I like having somebody else to work with to build, instead of it being me pulling the ship,
Yeah.
So, but I did, and I don't regret it. It was a great decision. It took us, a minute to get our bearings, but we doubled our business the first year, leaving that brand and being an independent. And then we continued to build, after that. So it is amazing.
All right. So you were at about 25 million anyway, which is just.
So when we left, we were at 32 million, and we did 70 something million the first year we were independent.
So if that isn't a beautiful illustration of what happens when you kill the negativity in your life,
100%.
You kill the people who suck your joy. You literally doubled your real estate business by getting out of a negative situation.
Leaving the negative behind. Yep, absolutely. And that was really the only change. It really was. It was like weight was lifted off and everybody was re-energized again. And so it showed. So, for the next 4.5 years, we built Experienced Realty Partners, and I had changed, I had been operating as the Kathy Helbig Group under Keller Williams and even at RE/MAX for a while. And everybody's saying, oh, don't name your real estate company your name. Like at that point, I was hearing all that stuff. And I was like, yeah, I should probably take my name out of it since I'm building bigger and bigger. And then also kind of think about what would I call it? What do I call it? And really it just kind of all came to me one day, because I remember where I was in my Keller Williams office, and a phone call had come in, and the person was extremely rude, and they were very rude to my team members. And then they wanted to escalate to me, and they demanded to talk to Kathy. But when I got on the phone with him, he was a pussycat. And they're all like, so I would see one example after another like that. And I didn't like it. And then I would even have people not really realizing, I don't think, how insulting it is, but they would be like, hey, by the way, blah, blah, blah. And, well, just get one of your minions, send one of your minions over to take care of it, that kind of stuff. And I was like, they are people. They are hard workers. They're my team. They're my family. Like, they're not my minions. I'm not any better than they are.
I don't do me without these people. Like,
100%.
we're not us without our team. I joke
Right.
with my people, like, I'm your assistant because I can't do anything without you. You guys can do way more than I
100%.
can.
Yep, exactly. So time after time after time, it started to make me angry. And then even just like watching buyers call in. Oh, great. Yeah, I'll give you some answers on that. Are you working with an agent? No, I want to see this house, blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. I'll send one of my agents over. Agent goes over. Their sister's an agent. They didn't want to bug her. So they called us to show the house. And it's like, who does that? Like, that really started to bug me, that our industry was so disliked by the public.
Yeah.
We definitely don't have a high consumer opinion at all. And it's gotten worse even since these days. So that was eating at me. And then finally I was just like, I'm going to change this. The reason why people have a low image of real estate agents is because twofold. We let them, number one, because we let the tail wag the dog a lot of times. But number two, because our model's broken. Very, very low barrier to entry, very little training, hardly. And so you got a bunch of real estate agents running around out there that aren't doing a good job. So 80% of the time, somebody has a transaction with one of those agents and their experience was not a great experience. So they definitely feel like they didn't know what they were talking about. They put the sign in the yard. They never called me back. My agent was blah, 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 blah. So there was just that negativity that kept growing and spreading in the public for real estate agents, because a lot of people haven't dealt with the top 20%. They've dealt with, the majority of the business. And so I was like, okay, there's the answers. Their experience has been terrible. And every time I would sit down and ask somebody, I'm in a listing appointment, so tell me about your last real estate experience. Oh, it's terrible. Agent, and then agent never even called. Like, they put the sign in the yard. I had to call them to see, you think we should do an open house? I had to call them and say, you think we should lower the price? Like, time after time after time, I would hear that. And so I was like, okay, the experience has to change. So that's was like, there's our brand. We're going to change it from the Kathy Helbig Group to the experience. Expect to be moved. That was my mission. That was our tagline. And then I thought about it more, and I was like, okay, it's going to take me a while because it's going to be one day experience at a time, but we're going to up the game. We're going to up our communication. We're going to provide more assistance, because selling a house is stressful. Buying a house is more fun, but it's also stressful. So how do we alleviate those pain points for people? By bringing in cleaning companies, by having our painters ready, having our stagers ready, like all these things of helping them lift the things off their shoulder that's weighing them down. So we started having this concierge approach early on, years ago, of like, let us take all that off your shoulders.
Wow.
We'll do all of that for you and arrange all of this stuff. And it took off. Like, a lot of people loved it because it was partly self help too, because we're looking for people to move quicker. And I was seeing that I would go meet people on listing appointments, and they would bring out their laundry list of all the things that they felt like they needed to do, and they would hit overwhelm. And so overwhelm does what? Paralyzes you. So I'm sitting there going, let's get this house, let's get the house market. But they're like, you know, they wouldn't make it that season. And they're like, well, we're going to wait next year because we were going to do it this summer. And I'm like, you know what? No, we're going to do that for you.
I'm gonna have
So we
somebody
can
take care of that for
So
you.
we can get it on the market faster and give you a better experience. How's that for a win-win?
I love it.
So that was where we built the experience. Then I went down the rabbit hole a little farther because I'm like, okay, we're going to change this one experience at a time. But then I was like, that needs to go a step farther back. How do we provide a better experience? We have to give the agent a better experience to begin with, so that the agent can give the consumer a better experience so that we get repeat business back. So it was actually a step backwards on, okay, we need to provide more hands-on training. We need to produce better agents. We need to give them support, because I was running crazy. I was exhausted. I'm not the, you know, I was able to handle a lot of it much better than some other people might. But if we didn't provide some balance for people, they're going to hit burnout. You get angry. Your anger shows to your customer because you're just grinding, and you're not appreciated. So that's when I was like, okay, 2 steps back. Let's at least fix the agent problem within my control. So my team and my people, which was again why later I wanted to get out of the big sea of red, because I wanted to control my group and not be diluted by what was around me. So that's kind of where we just fine-tuned things and said, all right, we're just going to stand out on our own, and we're going to create this experience for people that's not perfect, because real estate has so many curveballs and there's so much emotions involved, but we can make it better. And some of them are darn close to perfect, and those people are raving fans, you know, but I really wanted to focus back on the agent, because during this time, I also went through a divorce. I have now children that are in their mid to late teens that are more adults, and a younger one still. And I was learning what I missed out on with them, and seeing, you know, where my life was out of balance and out of control. And I didn't wish that on my worst enemy. So that's why, okay, we're going to bring in agents. We're going to teach them better. We're going to keep even our brokerage as a teamridge. It's built more like a team than march to your own drummer, because again, my point was, if we get everybody on the same systems and doing things the same way, then you can easily step out and let somebody take over for you for a few days or a week. I would go on vacation and never be off the phone, ever. Because back in those days, you'd have a manila folder with your client's name on it and the contract like this thick, especially with relocation, it's this thick, you know, and you would be like, the night before you're leaving on vacation, you're up till 2 o'clock in the morning labeling your files and your Post-it notes, and you're asking your buddy, okay, now he's going to watch my files for me. So here's Mrs. Seller and here's Mr. Seller, and don't say this to this one. And blah, blah, blah. You have all these instructions. They have the best of intentions, but they don't know how you exactly do things. They're not doing the same things. So inadvertently, bring, hey, I tried, but you know, they're upset because blah, blah, blah. All right, let me call and talk to them. So you never really got away. So that's where the systems and procedures and the support and stuff for me came in, to like really, really be adamant when my people come to work here that they utilize our systems. Because I was one of those rebellious ones. I never used the company stuff. I always hired my own things and stuff. But because I've done that, I also know what is best. So I use the best systems instead of just the easiest across the board brokerage systems. Yeah. But we do require people, like, you have to use this. It's for your own good, because we can fill in for you when you need to take that break. So that was Experience Realty Partners. We've been growing in leaps and bounds. It's been great. And then
plot twist.
Couple things. So I mentioned my boyfriend back in the day, which became my fiance back in the day. And then we got married. So now we are running a mortgage business. He works for a mortgage company, but he got to be a point where he was a branch manager or a branch owner. They run their own P&L, stuff like that. And then I'm running a mortgage real estate company. I also had a title company I was partners with. So I'm figuring out the whole, you got to have affiliated services involved, even as a big team. It's just beneficial for a lot of reasons. And so we're just kind of, that was just our life. So it's like we have mortgage, real estate, and title, so to speak. So for 20 something years, I've been going to every Inman Connect. I go to every Zillow Premier Agent thing. Like I'm all over the United States, and I've made all kinds of real estate friends and connections over the years, and we've watched each other grow. And so one day, we're seeing people and we're like, you guys should get into title. You guys should get into title. You should try title. Because I was kind of a trailblazer a lot of times with that kind of stuff. And some
You're
of
a
them did.
businesswoman. You're not just a realtor. You're
Yes,
a businesswoman.
exactly. And that's huge. I grew into that, which is amazing. So finally, one day it was just my light bulb went off. Tim was like, babe, can't we like teach these people to do mortgage? Like, how can we help them do mortgage? And he was like, yeah, you're right. So we just kind of brainstormed a little bit, and then not even thinking about money. It was just like, they're missing out by not having mortgage, because mortgage was a big thing for me. Like I was very reluctant to have a person that I was partnering with back in the day with mortgage. I just didn't want to commit to that. And then I realized later that it was a mistake, because having someone that you're committed to means they're as committed to you back. And when they're feel like they're a dime a dozen, they're not going to move heaven and earth on the deals that you need them to move heaven and earth on, right? So we thought that thinking, of course, then I date my mortgage guy and, marry the mortgage guy. And so now we're definitely no competition involved, but we just grabbed a friend one day.
That guy, yeah.
He sealed that deal. I'm not saying he brought out the marriage contract. Yeah. So, we ran into some friends and we just kept saying, you guys should think about mortgage. Talk to Steve about mortgage. He could help you guys out, blah, blah. And they're like, yeah. And then one day they were like, yeah, we should. And so, we sat down with our first group of friends and just like, here's what we do. We can do this for you. We can have you open your own divisions. You can have your own P&Ls within this company. So you're not running your own company, because here's the thing, real estate agents will fail. We have too much going on to protect the real estate business, which is the wheel that spokes out to everything else. There's no way, because I watched it with title, that you can be so engrossed in opening and running another type of company like that. So we as agents, as brokers, as team leaders, we need a plug and play. We need something that is like easy to do, get it in, have our agents adopt it, and then have an upside to it. So that's the model that we built with, our mortgage based on just our real life experiences. And then we launched a couple people, and, they were having great success with it, and they told other people. The next thing you know, we've built this mortgage model. We're opening, mortgage divisions within teams and brokerages all over the United States over the last year and a half, 2 years. Then in the process, that takes me away a little bit. And our team is still staying at about 30 agents. I had a couple people leave, a couple people come in. Again, that wipes me out. When somebody leaves, when I put my heart and soul into them, it would almost debilitate me for a while. It was like, so like, what, why do they not think I'm valuable? Why does paying me a split, why do they not see what all I'm doing for them? And the fact that I'm responsible for them and their license, and they just walk away for 10 cents more over here. Like, that was so personal to me. It was hard. It was tough. So, I'm sitting there coaching with a coach that their main thing is recruiting. And I've been coaching with them for almost 2 years, and I don't recruit, haven't recruited, not picked up the phone. I think I picked up the phone like 3 times. And I kept asking myself, why am I not, what is my problem? Like, why am I not doing this? And finally it hit me that I'm not recruiting because I'm at capacity with what I have now. I don't want to bring anybody else on, and I don't want anybody else to leave me.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it's just too painful. So I just kind of stay where I was at. We're doing, great business, 86, 90 million, all good. And, half the agents work, half of them are part-time.
You like 80, 90 million, like it's nothing.
You're
just like, 80, 90 million, whatever.
All right, it's good. So we're top 4 or 5 in St. Louis at that number. There's some other big teams in St. Louis too. So, finally I was just like, we're partners with people that have started making moves. Other RE/MAX, other Coldwell Banker, like people, every brand that we've now partnered with in the mortgage. And I started watching some of them make moves to that company that I talked to 5 years ago.
Not
EXP.
going away.
Not going away. They're now up to 55,000 agents. And, but I was like, Steve, I don't think it's a good move for us because we need to be brand agnostic. We're now running a mortgage operation. And I don't want people to feel like, oh, we don't want to talk to them because they're just going to try to recruit us, that type of thing. So I was kind of, we're good. I'm good at this. But then I also started realizing the more I'm getting busy with other things too, I've gotten out of production, at this point in time.
Yeah.
But it's my name on the building, and it's my name on the liability dotted line. But yet I'm not here every day being the one that's overseeing and coaching. So that started to get a little scary for me. So I was like, oh, I don't know if this is so smart that I'm not the one giving the advice, write it this way or do that. And then if there's a problem, I'm going to be the one in court.
Right.
So that was in the back of my mind. The fact that I'm not recruiting for some reason is in the back of my mind. And then being in partners with these people that I'm seeing make changes to this company, and I've watched their personal lives grow. I've watched their business grow. I've watched their income grow, because remember, we're mortgage partners with them. So we know all that stuff. And then nobody ever hard sold me, but I was kind of like, I probably should go back to at least visiting that idea. And at the same time, I had a big, major luxury brand that was trying to make an offer to buy me. I also had another independent that wanted me to buy him, and then have him buy as a minority part back into the whole of what we do together. And then I thought to myself, what am I thinking? I don't want 54 more agents or 60 more agents is what they had. Why do I want to buy him and make my troubles?
Or more partnerships. Oh.
Yes, that too. And so, I played with it all. I talked to my coaches, some people like, just take the check and go run the mortgage division, that kind of stuff. And I was like, maybe, but then I look at my work family, and I was like, I don't feel like it's going to be a fit for everybody, So I hesitated. I didn't get back to them, on that thing. So meanwhile, I keep kind of checking into EXP a little bit more low key. But then finally I was just like, it probably makes sense for my group for sure. Because again, I was to the point where as a broker, there was only so much pie you can cut. And I cut some pretty big pieces. So the profitability is suffering as I have to keep giving more and more and more. And so I'm like, I don't have anything else to give, but I want to keep giving to my people. So this company has other options that they can get.
Well, and as a business owner, all the liability is on you. Like you just
100%.
said, you're holding all of the liability.
Right. So that was a big driving force for sure. But then also, what can I give these? How can I ignore the fact that there's a company out here that's making big strides, fastest growing company in the United States, making huge strides by giving agents other incentives, by the revenue share, by the stocks that they, earn and can buy at a discount, all that stuff. I'm like, I don't have that. I can't offer that. And I actually had one of my agents had their 46-year-old husband pass away tragically, unexpectedly.
Oh.
And she was dealing with like, oh my gosh, I got to check into insurance. And I don't have insurance, So I was like, hey, wait a minute. Actually, EXP has insurance. I called her in one day. I was like, let's jump on and see this, because I will switch to them for you. If that will help you and your family get insurance, I'll look at switching to them. So we looked at it and stuff. And the more I looked at it, I was like, I just simply am going to get to the point where one by one, I'm sure I will lose some people, because there is other opportunity out there that as a small independent brokerage, I couldn't offer anymore.
Right.
So that's when I finally went, all right, let's just look at this, and we're just going to do it. I jumped in every other time, and I've survived and thrived. So here we go again, guys. So the end of April, we made a huge announcement that Experienced Realty Partners was now merging with eXp Realty. It shocked the heck out of a bunch of people.
Oh, of course. Of course.
I've always been that brand myself. I'm out there every day. And they were like, what the heck, Kathy Helbig went to EXP. So here we are 2 months in, and it's been a crazy ride. And in the process, you know, I think I was in the company for 4 or 5 days, and they whisked me to Cabo for this mastermind. And then I came back and had to do something for a mortgage. And then I came back and put an event together, my first event ever in my life. And so it has been
First of
crazy.
many. First of many.
Yes. But it's been good. It's been refreshing for our agents. It's got St. Louis talking about us, which is a good thing. And then crazy enough, right about a month after I announced, the #1 team in St. Louis, which is with one of the most traditional real estate companies, went to EXP. So everybody's like, oh. So the two of the top people now made the move. So it's kind of fun and interesting to see that landscape change. Yeah, it's fun to see it all change in St. Louis. So that's what we're riding with right now. But that brought you up to date with the saga and life of Kathy Helbig.
So literally like up to day date.
Yep. Yeah,
all right.
You got it.
So we have talked about some big numbers, and everyone starts somewhere. So you have seen so much and you know so much. Let's go to, so unfortunately, you and I both know this, that most realtors, it's like 78-80% last about 18 months and then they're done. They don't even make it to year 2. So I want to talk about, like, let's say we're talking to, I want some advice for, let's say it's that agent who's doing good by most standards, right? They're doing 4 or 5 million a year and they're hanging on, right? But they're like, you know what? I know there's more for me. I know that I can maybe double. So I would like to have some advice for the realtor, the solopreneur that is at 5 million that wants to get to 10 million. What do you got?
So it's funny that you mentioned 5 million as your number, because way back when I noticed that most people first started with me, and then I watched the statistics of people as they grew. 5 million was about that mark where you're pretty much at capacity back then. Now, today it might be a little more because of technology and stuff, but you're pretty much at capacity when you're hitting 5 million. So agents had to make a decision at that point in time is, do I just, let people fall between the cracks because I can only handle so much? Is my experience not as good, which it usually isn't when you're taxed, max to capacity? Or do I make a team? So back in the day, kind of the team thing was it, and that was Keller Williams models, build a team, like all that stuff. So the problem is, I think some people jump into a team too soon. So the reality is this, and most people will not be honest with you about it. You will most likely make more money as a solo practitioner, bringing on some assistants and keeping solo as much as you can, or maybe one agent, versus building these mega agent teams. There's this in-between stage where that profitability in net is not much more, if more, than what you were running as a single agent with 1 or 2 assistants, or maybe a buyer agent or something like that. So you have to be prepared for what are your goals? Are you wanting to get to the next level of 10 million, 12 million, 15 million because you want to rank higher in the statistics and things, or do you want to make more money? So that's where you really need to break it down. And I would say if you're trying to get over that 500,000 or the 5 million hump, I would start with an assistant. And if it's a licensed assistant because you need to do licensing, great. Maybe get 2 licensed assistants. Maybe then add on a buyer agent before you start really going too wide, because you'll have to start spending too much. You have to start providing leads. Now you got to give these people the reason that they're taking a split from them.
Yeah, why are they going to stay with you? Yeah, expenses go up. That's exactly right.
Yep. And then, like I said, you're also promoting giving part of your business away because you're not that point of contact. So if I had to do some of that over again, I probably wouldn't have scaled as big at the time. I managed to push through that and
Right.
get to the next level. But there was those years where it's like, dang, I can go back. I can have less headaches of managing all these people, because you got to start adding staff. You have employees. Now you got to do 401k matches. Like, that's a lot. It starts
Yeah.
adding up, you know? So my advice is, number one, the more you can focus on your sphere and your database and not buy things, the more profitable you're going to be, obviously. A lot of us, me included, path of least resistance is give me a checkbook and what can I buy? Give me a lead. Give me buy some leads and buy some leads. Because that took less of my time and focus to go that route than it was to really mine my database. So if I could go back in time, I would have mined my database better. I didn't. I preach it now, but I didn't follow my own preaching back then. I let stuff come to me. I did not go out to people. I was not good at staying in touch with my past clients, other than an event, you know, an event here or there. But really being focused on staying in relationship with those people doesn't cost you much money, and that will make your business grow and grow and grow. So that's the number one thing, is focus on the dang database. Everybody's been saying it for years, but still 80% of people don't do it.
But listen, it's 15, maybe 30 minutes a day.
What it is it goes back to that overwhelm.
Yes.
Because
yes. Where do I start?
That was me. Where do I start? You know, we had top producer for years, and my transaction coordinator would put the people in a top producer, but it was so disorganized, and it wasn't like, you know, it wasn't handled properly. And so when I would look at it, I'm like, okay, we're gonna clean up our database today, and I would look at it and go, I don't want to do that. I get through like 10 people. I'm like, next squirrel, you know, on to the next thing. So and then another year goes by, and then another year. Then I find out, I'm telling on myself here, I find out my transaction coordinator stopped putting the people in a few years ago.
Oh no, because you didn't keep up with that standard. You set the expectation,
Yes.
but you did not double check that standard.
No, I wasn't double checking. That was part of the process. Close it out, put them in. Oh yeah, I stopped doing that a couple years ago.
Why should I put it in? Kathy's not ever going to use it.
Exactly. But then one day I wanted to use it. I was like, where's your so-and-so to so-and-so? Oh, she stopped putting them. I'm like, what do you mean she stopped putting those in?
Oh,
so that's,
no.
I mean, that's money. That is money. That's a chunk of money
Absolutely.
that's missing out of my past, you know? And so the overwhelm is 100% real, of like going backwards and trying to bring all that in. So the best advice I can give is start today. So it's just the first one that comes today, take care of it, tag it, name it something, put it into what's your campaign moving forward. Your campaign moving forward for people that you haven't met is completely different from people that are your close friends or past clients.
Right.
Tagging all of that, and then maybe make yourself time block 1 day a week for 30 minutes to go back and grab 30 more from the past and bring it back. And then you can add it too. But if you're waiting to bring the past in before you bring the present in, the present's never going to make it.
Oh, right.
Right.
It has to be a combination. What you got going now, what you got closing now, plus bringing in some of the old people.
Exactly. And people like to feel like you care about them. Like we started a new program a couple of years ago, and I remember it was about almost 2 years ago we started it, and I hadn't done any of my reaching out. Like, I preached to my team to do it, but I wasn't doing it. You know, I'm the boss. I can tell them to do it, but I didn't do it. And my intentions were, I'm going to call 5 people a day. And I think I did that for like 3 or 4 days. But I was like, you all need to look up the numbers and send it to me. And then I just need to, and I'm going to call those people. That was a great idea. I should have stuck with it. I didn't do it. But then the pandemic hits. So then we're like, wow, what do we do? And so, you know what? I'm just going to reach out to everybody via text message through this CRM that we have that lets us deliver text messages very easily. I don't have to do one at a time.
Technology, look at that.
And I was shocked by how many people, it was just say, hey, just checking how you doing, you know, not think of me for real estate. It was just a human touch.
Just want to let you know I was thinking about you.
So many people were like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. For, like, they were clamoring for the fact that I thought of them, you know, during that time. And people were texting back and forth with me, and I'm like, I don't remember who this person is. Really. But it was like, wow. that was eye-opening, that just that one little text was like, wow, somebody's like, I didn't think you'd have time to even remember me, or I didn't think you'd have time to reach out to me. I was like, oh, of course I do. I remember you, but
Totally
better
remember you.
me.
Yes.
Yeah, totally. So it means something to people. It means something to feel like they're important to you, especially as you become more and more successful, that you don't lose sight of who helped get you there. And statistically saying, most people don't use their same agent as their next transaction. And why is that? Because we don't stay in touch with them. Shame on us.
The biggest thing I am getting from this whole conversation is your relationship talk.
Mm-hmm.
You will do, most of us will do more for other people than we will do for ourselves. And
Exactly.
at every point you're like, okay, what is it best for my team? Is it best for my people? Is it best for this? Is it best for that? If I reach out to these people, that people, you are, even though you will admit, I am not the best at keeping up with my past clients, within you, it's all about relationships. And even when you're reflecting back a little bit, one of your regrets is, I didn't keep up with that relationship with your personal and your business. That is so
biggest regret. Girl, we'd probably be doing 300, 400 million had I been methodical and disciplined about making that part of my everyday business plan. But I didn't. I mean, I was easy. It was easy for me. Things came to me. I took it. I took my lumps as I needed to. I built it back up. But that's a lot of work too. You think, following up a database is a lot of work, but it's a lot of work building every single day too. Sometimes you need to reflect on your building that you built instead of always be adding to it.
Adding new additions.
Because the one room's fallen off. So now I got to add another addition. And then
whereas if you would have taken care of that room, took care of your maintenance.
Yep. 100%.
Wow.
So that's the biggest advice. And then, talking about relationship for agents that are trying to take it to the next level is, people want to work with people they know, like, and trust, right? So what better way to have people know you, like you, and trust you than to be putting yourself out there, bringing value, not just, hey, anybody you want to refer, you want to buy, sell, build, looking to invest, blah, 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 blah. Like, that's not, it's terrible. But if you're just like bringing contribution all the time to the community, to the real estate world, putting it out there that you're an expert, how is somebody, because I'm telling you right now, real estate shifting, it always has its little times where it corrects. And people are going to be looking for the experts.
Yes.
But how do they know who the experts are when they know 5 different real estate agents? It's just my friend of a friend, but they don't really know anything about them, or they call a lead and they get a stranger that works with them because they don't really have a connection. They know people, but they don't have a connection with somebody else. So making yourself that expert is hugely important. And we've been hearing it for 10 years. I do it some, not as much as I need to, because, for me, it's a time thing and I'm a perfectionist thing, which I got to get over that. But video, live stuff, putting your face, putting yourself out there in a natural state, doesn't have to be perfect. People are not looking for the produced videos anymore. I went through all that, hire my videographer, video this and then cut this. And no, it's like stick it up and do a Facebook Live and be real. You're coming out of the gym. Hey man, I'm coming out of the gym right now, but I'm just telling you, the real estate market this week has been blah, 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 blah. Like, be that expert, put it out there. And
they don't want you to be too polished. They do not want polished.
Body language is everything. So, and also real estate agents lie. They put those dumb, ugly pictures from 20 years ago. They don't look anything like they are. So put yourself out there. Who cares? I don't like what I look like when I see myself in FaceTime. I was like, that's what I look like then. It is what it is.
I tell people, if you don't like what you look, if you don't like the way you look, you need to get your ass busy on that.
That's right.
Get on it.
I was like, fix your face and go do some videos.
Get on it.
Yeah.
So what something you just said is have the relationship and be the expert. If they don't have a relationship with you as the realtor, that's your fault. That's not their fault. If they know 5 or 10 realtors and they don't consider you the expert, that's on you. And you can absolutely you can absolutely change that.
Yeah. And you know what I noticed? Because when I really put myself out there more consistently was during the pandemic, because you're getting all this crazy information, you know, people had their own theories and the real estate bubble, like all this stuff. And so I'm like, I'm just going to put myself out there and talk about what I know as a professional. And I had more people connect to those and watch those videos and comment. I had other agents calling me saying, thank you for your videos. No one in my brokerage is talking. No one is telling us what to do. We're so scared. Is the real estate market going to be, you know, crash this year? Like, we don't know. Everything that you're telling us is just so helpful. Thank you so much. And that, you know, and I wasn't trying to get recognition. I was just talking about what I heard and knew and wanted to dispel some of the dumbness that was out there that people were spreading around, you know. And that made a huge difference. And then I got busy and I kind of fell off on the videos again. So, you know, really staying consistent with that, I got a ton of traction from being in front of people a lot. And it wasn't rehearsed. At first, when I did my videos, I did the teleprompter. I mean, you got it. You might need to take your baby steps and do that type of thing.
Absolutely. But I used to take mine and I would put sticky notes. There would be a whole roll of sticky notes. So I knew exactly what to say. Yep. On my phone. Yep.
Yep, totally. And every once in a while, if you want to say something like specific, you need to hit specific things and, you know, you need to use a teleprompter for that. But if you can get to the point where you can wing it, keep it shorter and you can wing some things, and great. But, you know, that is really, we've been hearing it for 10 years. It's not going away. Video's not going away. You may as well embrace it and then make yourself the expert, because it's funny too. I tell my agents this all the time. Never in my life have I been in an industry that the people that are in it, the salespeople, don't really learn their craft. Like, I eventually had to learn about the car. You know, I had to know some basic stuff.
You had to talk car language. Yeah.
And people get into this business and they don't know anything. They don't know what a coffered ceiling is. They don't. So I'm like, go freaking learn your craft.
Like, what's a sump pump?
Yeah, like go follow a building inspector around. Ask him if you can piggyback with him for a few days, and you will learn a myriad of things, because a lot of people are younger people getting into the business. They've never owned a house. Right. They don't know any of this stuff. So when consumers are looking at you for, oh gosh, what do you think about that? That sump pump, you're like, what's a sump pump? You know, you sound like an idiot. Yeah. You're trying to sell a product and you don't even know what some of the names are. Shame on you. Get yourself into new construction houses and go learn that stuff. Follow building inspectors around and learn that stuff. Learn about a house. Learn about the mechanics of a house. Learn about the market. Study the market. What happened this month in this zip code? What's the average sale in this zip code? What's the average days on the market? So many people are like, how do you do that? Do your MLS searches. Like, the MLS will teach you, but
what you pay for. That's right.
People don't know how to do that. And that's really it's going to continue to set you apart, is becoming the market expert. Even those $5 million producers, sometimes that's through sphere of influence and you know, they got a good lucky run like I did, but they're not doing those action steps either. And, you know, market updates are important. And real estate is always an entertainment topic. Everybody loves to hear about real estate, even if you're not buying or selling. But don't make the mistake on your Facebook pages of just listed, just sold, open house. You know, if you're not buying right that second, you're irrelevant. But if you're saying, hey,
I do a whole 45-minute talk on how to be more interesting. People want to do business with interesting people. Stop always talking about business.
Not just business, not just the sale.
Interesting.
Got to pepper in other stuff. Yeah, pepper in other stuff so that somebody wants to continue to follow you, because you're bringing in other interesting stuff. Because when they're not in the market right now, you're irrelevant.
Yes.
Just like when you're calling leads too, don't give up. Like, this is an extreme market where you got to be more extreme with everything that you're doing. You know, so somebody's not picking up, they're not answering your text message. You call them 150 different times, nothing. But, you know, all of a sudden, the one day they're gonna connect with you, because I turned it around myself, because I'll, like, when I'm shopping for cars or we're shopping for furniture, and then those people call you, you're like, I'm not gonna pick that up because I don't because you're irrelevant to me right now because I don't need that couch right now. You're irrelevant to me right now because I decided not to buy a car yet. So but then guess what? The day my car breaks down, next time that person calls, hey, by the way,
You know,
so
probably
it
do
was
need a new
no.
car. That's right.
Yeah, now I do. Now you just became relevant enough for me to acknowledge you. So you got to think about that with your lead generation, your follow-up, and your databases. Keep going, keep going, keep going, because one of these times you're going to call at the right time when they need you for something, and then they will, hey, I'm so glad. Like, oh, you ghosted me 153 times, but now you're happy to talk to me. Awesome. Yeah.
I sent you to voicemail 13 times, but right now,
really, I never got those. Okay, yeah, whatever. yeah, for sure.
Oh my goodness.
And then the other thing is, if you want to grow, you want to get to something else, go find somebody else that has done what you've done. Take them to lunch, ask them some questions. Get mentoring, or find people out of your market area.
Right.
And mastermind with them. That's the one thing the final thing that I loved about the EXP is I was seeing those agents were so willing to share everything. Just, oh, you need team agreements? Here, I'll send you mine. Oh, you want the playbook on how I onboard? Here, I'll send you mine. You're just like, wow, like, why recreate the wheel? If somebody's willing to share stuff with you, go for it.
There's not a culture of competition.
Right, 100%. And this market is pretty competitive when you really look at it. Most people in your area particularly don't want to give you one idea to help you succeed.
So I feel like that I could talk to you for 5 more hours.
I can talk for 5 more hours. We might lose the audience though.
Well, the good news is I'm only like 4 hours from you, and if I drive super fast, I can be there like 3.5. I can be there. Well, not quite dinner time, but because it's afternoon, late afternoon. But I can be there for breakfast in the morning.
We need to plan it. So,
Kathy, you have been absolutely. You have over-delivered. You have absolutely over-delivered, and I know that everyone who listens to this is going to pull out 10 different nuggets, and it's truly going to be one of those episodes that they will listen to several times because you covered so much incredible stuff. So everyone, this is my friend Kathy, and I'm so glad that you are here, and we're just going to wrap it up. Until next time, everybody, on the next episode, I will talk to you then. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.